"You don't need that money," my mother said, right there, in front of everyone. My father added, "It belongs with the family." Without even looking at me, the judge paused, frowned, and said, "Hold on. Read line 14 again." My stomach dropped when I realized this wasn't going how they planned. My name is Lauren Whitfield, and I'm 35 years old. I work as a compliance analyst, the kind of job where details and fine print matter. In my family, I was always the dependable one, the quiet fixer, never the favorite and never the one they praised. I grew up believing peace was more important than fairness, and that wanting more meant being labeled selfish. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. If you've ever been the responsible one who still got overlooked, this story's for you. Subscribe if you felt underestimated by your own family. Tell me in the comments if this already sounds familiar, and click hype or like if you know what it's like to stay quiet for too long. After my aunt passed away, her will revealed an inheritance of just over $310,000, assigned directly to me. My aunt and I had always been close. She was the one person in the family who saw me clearly, who asked how I was doing, and actually waited for the answer. So when the lawyer read her wishes, I wasn't entirely surprised. She wanted ME to have it, but my family had a different idea. At a family dinner, about 3 weeks after the funeral, my parents pushed a stack of paperwork across the table toward me. My mother smiled and said it would be better for everyone if the money stayed together. She said it like she was offering me something generous, like I should be grateful they were including me in their plan at all. My brother leaned back in his chair and laughed. "Seriously, Lauren, what do you even need that kind of money for? You don't have kids. You don't have a house payment. Just let it go." The whole table laughed with him. I remember the sound of forks clinking against plates, and my father chuckling under his breath. It was the sound of people who had already decided what I was worth. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat at my kitchen table under the yellow glow of the overhead light and actually read the documents. Every single page. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding. I realized they weren't asking me to share. They were trying to legally redirect my inheritance into a joint family account, one controlled entirely by my parents. When I called my mother the next morning and told her I wasn't going to sign, the warmth vanished from her voice like someone had flipped a switch. "You're making a mistake, Lauren," she said. And then she hung up. Weeks later, I was served court papers at work. A man in a gray jacket walked into our office lobby and said my name out loud. My coworker turned and stared. I took the envelope with both hands and felt the weight of it, not just the paper, but what it meant. My own parents were taking me to court. I stopped getting invited to family gatherings after that. My mother said things were too awkward now. I found out about Thanksgiving plans through my cousin's social media post. There I was, scrolling through photos of a table I used to sit at with people who used to call me dependable. My mother told relatives I was suing the family. She left out the part where they sued me first. She left out the paperwork. She left out the laughter. Texts poured in from aunts and uncles and cousins I barely spoke to. "Be reasonable, Lauren. Don't tear this family apart over money. Your aunt wouldn't have wanted this." Nobody asked me what actually happened. Nobody asked to see the documents. Their lawyer sent a formal letter claiming I had misunderstood my aunt's intentions and that the will wasn't clear enough to hold up. Reading that letter at my kitchen table, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It became something harder, something with edge. I opened my laptop, pulled out a notebook, and began carefully documenting everything. Every text message, Every voicemail, every date, and detail I could remember. The sadness was still there, sitting in my chest like a stone. But now, it had company, his Olvi. What they didn't know was that reading contracts was literally my job. Every single day, I sat at a desk and reviewed legal language that would put most people to sleep. I noticed details most people skip right over. I caught inconsistencies others missed completely. That's what I was trained to do, and I was good at it. My family assumed I was weak because I stayed quiet at dinners and avoided confrontation. They thought silence meant surrender. But I had a plan they never saw coming, and it was hidden right inside the document they were relying on to beat me. I contacted an old family lawyer named Gerald Pratt. He had helped my aunt draft her will years earlier, back when she first started planning her estate. I hadn't spoken to him in a long time, but he remembered me. More importantly, he remembered her. I sat across from him in his small office that smelled like old paper and wood polish. I laid everything out: the will, the redirect documents, the text messages, the court filing. He put on his reading glasses and went through each page slowly, quietly. Then he looked up and said, "Lauren, did they even read this thing all the way through?" I shook my head. He tapped his pen on a specific paragraph and said, "Then they've already lost this case." He helped me organize every piece of evidence and prepare calmly for court. We went over my testimony. We reviewed the timeline. He was patient and thorough, and for the first time in months, I felt like someone was standing beside me. Meanwhile, my family grew more confident. With each passing week, my brother texted me once and said, "There's still time to drop this and come back to the family." I didn't respond. They were so sure I'd back down before the hearing. They had watched me back down my entire life. The day of the hearing, the courtroom smelled like floor wax and stale coffee. It was a small room, but it felt enormous. My parents sat on the opposite side with their lawyer, a tall man in a dark suit who kept adjusting his tie. My mother wore a cream-colored blouse and held a tissue in her lap. My father sat with his arms crossed, his jaw set, staring straight ahead. My brother was in the row behind them, whispering to a cousin. Several other relatives filled the benches. I could feel their eyes on me, like the heat from a low flame. I sat still. I kept my hands flat on the table. I breathed. Their lawyer stood first. He was smooth and confident. He argued that my aunt's funds were always meant for shared family support. He claimed she had expressed wishes, verbally, that the money be used collectively, not individually. He described M.E. as someone acting out of selfishness, fracturing a grieving family over a misunderstanding. I didn't flinch. Then, it was OUR turn. Gerald didn't make a long speech. He stood, walked to the bench, and handed the judge the original copy of my aunt's will. He asked her to read one specific clause aloud. The judge adjusted her glasses and looked down at the page. "Line 14, Gerald said calmly. The judge read it, slowly and clearly. The clause stated that the sum designated to Lauren Ann Whitfield was to be delivered directly and solely to her, non-transferable, no exceptions, no redistribution by any family member, representative, or legal proxy." My aunt had written it that way, deliberately. She knew exactly what this family would try to do. The courtroom went completely silent. I could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights above. The judge looked up from the document and stared directly at my parents. "Were either of you aware this clause existed?" she asked. My father shifted in his seat. My mother looked at her lawyer, who was flipping through his own papers frantically. He had missed it. They all had. The judge dismissed the case without hesitation. She said the language was clear The clause was legally binding, and there was no basis to continue. It was over. In minutes. My parents stood slowly. My mother grabbed her purse and walked toward the exit without a single word. She didn't look at me. My father followed close behind, his hand on her shoulder, guiding her out like I was the one who had wronged them. My brother passed me in the aisle. He didn't say anything, but his face was tight, almost confused, like he still couldn't understand how I had done this. I stood there as the room emptied around me. I listened to footsteps fading down the hallway. I didn't feel triumphant. That's the part that surprised me most. I thought there would be some rush of victory, some moment of vindication, but there wasn't. I just felt relieved, lighter than I had in years, like I had been holding my breath underwater, and finally broke the surface. For the first time in my life, I chose myself without apologizing, without shrinking. I just stood in the truth and let it speak. This story is about financial betrayal by family and standing your ground when everyone expects you to fold. If someone close to you ever tried to take what was rightfully yours, I want to hear about it. Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to be part of a community that you understands this kind of pain. And click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, especially against family. If you've been there, subscribe and join this community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.